This conference will now be recorded.
All right. So cool. All right, let's go and get started. It's 4 o'clock. Roswell Infrastructure Committee meeting. If we could have a roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Committee Chair Jacob Roebuck.
Here.
Committee Vice Chair Margaret Kennard.
Here.
Here.
And Savino Sanchez is here. We no longer have George Peterson.
So, great. Thank you. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda? I'm going to make two requests. Number one, that we're going to punt item number 3. And then also, I know that Mr. Nahar wanted us to go forward with this, but I really want to wait till Councilor Lopez is here. We're going to go ahead and kick ICIP for,
On it.
yeah. For a,
And what do you mean on item number 3, Counselor? Because Scott Stark is here.
oh, Scott is here.
Yeah, right behind me.
Oh, there you are. Are you?
I'm ready.
Okay, well then we don't need to go then. So that is fine.
So you you would like to have a motion to approve the agenda presented and taking item 8 out?
Yes. Thank you.
I move to approve the agenda in the minutes, removing number 8 ICIP projects until a later time.
Have a second?
Taken.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Great. All right. Item 2, project updates discussion.
Okay, first thing I want to do is the weather's been hitting all the projects and everything else. Everybody asks where I get all my rainfall information. This is it. This is from NOAA, your national weather stuff. So what you have here is the 50-year events and the 100-year events. So you can, a half-hour storm, 3-hour storm, a 1-day storm. I have never, ever used the 45-day line. But rain gauges, northeast, that was my rain gauge, it's July 12th, 11.1 inches. I have one of my employees is there at the relief route and Sunset. He had 12.4. Either way you look at it, you're looking at probably a 100-year event for 45 days. So all this stuff has been happening with the landfill, with the bridge, with the weeds, with the mosquitoes, everything else. It's Mother Nature, but it's a 100-year event by the stats that we have. And again, it's numbers that I don't make up. These get made up every year. I'm sure the algorithm will be changing with this new data, but we are in a 100-year event. I want to start up that with the project update. Next slide. And then again, with the rain, this is the Abraham's landfill project. For a while, they had one of the dozers stuck out there because they couldn't get to it. It was too soft to get in there. It had lakes out there. Abraham wants to see what they're.
So far since the rain happened, they had to reshape a lot of the slopes. Actually removed dirt that had been saturated and introduced new dirt. So it was also, they basically sloped and graded the cell, probably going on the 3rd time now.
Yeah, and this picture here on the right is where they're sloping the cells again.
They have to reintroduce the dirt and pull back what shifted down to the cell. So they've been working around the clump to get it reshaped. So I guess it's a pretty good move.
Drying after work right now?
Yes, they're moving.
Okay. And of course, all the materials on site. Right now, it's just a matter of putting it together. Great.
Your Mother Nature to give us about 2 months of tolerable weather, working weather.
That's good.
We call weather working days.
Good.
On a side note too, as well, if I might, Louis, we started the wedge that we're working up. So we're changing the slope from
On cell number 4.
from 6-to-1 to a 2-to-1 slope. So the slope's like this right now. We're actually moving it up to a slope like this. So this entire area is going to buy us about those 5 months worth of space. We're going to start introducing garbage in there probably tomorrow.
What's the ratio you're moving up to?
2-to-1.
You're going from 2, you're going to 2 to 1. Okay.
Right now it's like
Okay.
It varies from a 6-to-1, 7-to-1 to a 2-to-1. But that's going to buy them some time to get to where they need to get. And then if we get to the point where they're ready, we'll jump over. We're not taking it all the way to the top.
Sure.
So
Sure.
we're just going to buy some time.
Just buying time. We have to look at safety too, because I mean, 2-to-1 is, you got to really slow down. I mean, there's a flat platform, but with those cats and stuff, you got to be careful.
Okay.
And Stanford, any other questions that you have in any of the other projects on the dashboard that we presented?
Counselors, any questions? Okay, if not, let's move on.
Okay, the next slide. Oh, airport infrastructure. Scott, start. What's up here?
Afternoon, councilors. Go ahead and go. Yeah, first slide.
Just before you get started, a little update on this. This is a discussion that I've been having with the mayor for a couple months now. And then, there's a lot of infrastructure out there at the airport. And, it's in the role of this committee to at least stay abreast of what's happening infrastructure wise out there. And so I don't know how much of the stuff you bring to legal, but hopefully not much because they got plenty of legal work to do. So I hope you don't mind getting split to another committee again.
Well, whether I do or I don't, I'm here.
Sure.
Either way, happy to share with you guys. So we'll start with the Southeast Infrastructure Project, which I think most people are familiar with because we've talked about that quite a bit. It's a pipeline project for a 12 or 14 water line. Yep. I don't remember which size we decided on area if we have yet. Whether
14 inch.
14. And it's going to go all the way from the new water tower on the east side back around to the Mystic area to feed that area and feed the housing development to the east. And it's a $2 million project funded by New Mexico Legislative Capital Outlay. At this point, it is in design phase.
And it is replacing, it's going from a small pipe to a big pipe, and we're replacing some transite.
We're not replacing any line. What we're doing is a new line starting at the new water tower,
Right.
which is a 14-inch water line feeding it and coming out. So if you can imagine from the new water tower on the east side, we'll cross over Cummins Loop, across the
What
street.
will happen with the water line that's currently?
All that stays the same. This is just additional water line.
Okay.
This is just additional infrastructure is basically what it is. It'll go north along the east side of Earl Cummins. And then before you get to Jennifer Lane, it'll turn east and then run east until it gets to the fence and basically run towards Perimeter Road at a southeast angle. And then along Perimeter Road towards Mystic, and then for the future, it would keep on going past the drag strip and stuff.
Okay.
So this is,
Do we have some transit out there that we need to replace at some point?
We do have some transite, but we will not encounter any there. This is a new line.
this is phase one of an overall larger project that the other phases haven't quite been determined just yet. They'll happen as funding becomes available. The other one I'm sure you've heard about is the Large Hangar Infrastructure Project. It's an $8 million project, roughly funded by the other $3 million of the New Mexico Legislative Capital Outlay, and then finished up with a DFA loan, which will be amortized to the tenant in the land lease. It's currently in design phase. This is the large hangar going in over by Dean Baldwin that we're working with Ascent on.
And no lease signed yet?
What's that?
No lease signed yet?
No lease signed yet. That is in their legal department at this point.
I hear their president's gonna be in town.
He'll be in town next week or this week? Yeah, this week.
Yeah, I'll try to twist his arm and get him to do that for you.
Yep. And Taxiway Alpha and Juliet, that's a $3.1 million project funded by FAA funds. It's the 2020 AIP grant with a partial match. There's actually two grants there. There's the AIP, normal AIP entitlement grant, and then there's the supplemental grant that we also got that same year. So one of those grants, the AIP grant, has no matching on it because of COVID funding. The supplemental grant has a 6.25% matching on it. So there's partial matching is the way it works it that way. That is to completely rebuild Taxiway Alpha and Taxiway Juliet, partial for Alpha and all of Juliet, just to the west of Dean Baldwin, between Dean Baldwin and runway 17. We'll go all the way down to subgrade and completely rebuild those taxiways. The Alpha portion was built by the Air Force in probably the 50s the last time it was completely rebuilt. So that's why the need to go down to subgrade and start over. Juliet is one that the city added on at some point and is a lesser load bearing on that one. And we're going to make them both the same load bearing. Alpha will be about the same as it is. Juliet will come up to that level. So you'll be able to put a 757 across either one of those taxiways. And feel free to interrupt anytime, on these quick, when you have questions too. Probably better to talk about it when I talk about it than to wait to the end. Vehicle parking, we talked about that last month, $2 million project funded by the FAA, 2019 MAP grant, 6.25% match. It is in design phase. As you know, that's west of the terminal where we'll be doing some uncovered parking immediately west of the terminal. And then over where building 650 is now, near building 611, that will be covered parking, about 55 spaces covered, about 90 that are not covered next to the terminal. Ramp apron rehabilitation phase 1, that's a $3.1 million project funded by FAA 2020 MAP grant, which also has no match because of COVID funding. It's in the design phase. We hope to begin that construction probably end of the year. So we'll have bidding and all of that in the fall. We'll go to construction in the winter. So those are the ones that actually have grants on them and have been either awarded or started, so on and so forth. Right now, future projects coming up. Our airport drainage study, this grant's not been awarded yet. We expect it at any time. Normally, July, August is the time frame for FAA to award the grants. That's a $700,000 project funded by FAA with no match because of COVID funding. And it is the first phase of our runway 17 total rebuild that we'll be doing in 24. So that will be, it will do a drainage study for the full airport. It'll include the RSA for runway 17 and the big drainage ditch west of there, so that we solve any drainage problems before we move further on with the design of the runway. So we'll do PER and design next year and then start looking at the rest of it after that. Apron rehabilitation phase 2 is going to be the MAP grant for this year, which again, we haven't received that yet. It's due, also a duplicate of the previous phase 1 at $3.1 million. No match also because of COVID. So I guess I should probably mention what that encompasses scope-wise so you understand the difference. The phase 1, which we'll get, which we already have, is basically the area right around the terminal, and that'll be a complete rehab, which involves crack sealing primarily is going to be the biggest part of it, but there also are a number of slabs that are cracked and will need to be taken out and repoured. So all of those will get done with that, and then back around to the west, some of the asphalt over near F-Light in that area. Phase 2 is area to the north and east of the terminal, all the way up to the end. But that scope may vary a little bit based on what happens with the Hangar 84 project, which I'll talk about next. The Hangar 84 doghouse is an EDA COVID-19 CARES grant application that has not been awarded yet for almost $2.8 million. And then we're providing the matching on that with our UDAG money of a little bit over $1 million, which leaves about $1.2 million of other funding, which will be a combination of the tenant paying some money. These numbers have not been quite tied down yet to what is going to be what, but the tenant has offered up some money. The state aviation department has agreed to look at a grant once we have the grant from EDA. So some of this is still in flux, and we'll figure that out. And then there's also a possibility of using American Rescue Plan money to fill up the difference. But I think we've cleared that pretty well, but that's adding on space to Hangar 84 so that you can get a 767 fully inside the hangar to do work on that, and that'll create jobs and provide the ability for the current tenant to do work they can't do it.
Explain what the doghouse is.
Yep.
Explain.
That's what I just did.
Yeah, but
it's basically a larger part. It'll be about 75 feet added onto the hangar and then higher, so that you get the tail of the aircraft in there. So about the same width, maybe slightly wider, but a lot taller. Pretty much same thing if you look at hangar 85. It's got the doghouse on the north end of the hangar. So this would be the same thing on the south end.
Gets that tail in there. So
That tall tail, yeah.
Yep.
assuming that the funding isn't an issue, how soon do you think this can start, this particular project? You know, I think I'm super sensitive to getting these hangars going because, you know, obviously all the other stuff is really important to keep the airport maintained. But as far as increasing the impact the airport has on the community, it's all about hangar space and
It is.
hangars. And
It is, and that's why this is an important project. So it's going to have to go through a normal federal process. So once we get the federal grant from EDA, I would suspect the next thing, of course, is to make sure we got funding for everything else to fill in the gaps. And then you would go into a design phase where we actually design the building side of it. Then we take those specs and bid them out for the actual construction.
is that right? Is that the 3, 4, 5 million? Is that what we're expecting for that?
Yes, right now, yes. And it's all sort of fluctuating a little bit, yes.
Oh, we got it.
Ballpark.
Okay.
Those are the numbers that we were given as a rough order of magnitude for the building. But who's to say nowadays that price of steel, everything else, it could.
Sure.
And then the other piece of how that ties into the FAA piece for the ramp, the area where AirSail's current tear down pad was an old hangar slab. That's going to get taken out, and that money would be used to repair that area of the ramp, which would be the approach into the new doghouse.
Somebody recently finished a tear down pad?
Jen Air just finished a tear down pad for their phase 1. They'll actually enlarge it here. It's big enough to use as it is, and they want to double the size of it. But so they're going to use it as it is right now and then double the size later. But yeah, they finished their phase 1 and what's that?
Where's it at?
It's on the south side, over near where Kabu's 2 tear down pads are. So across the other side of the runway. That's all.
Okay. Questions from the committee? Okay. I appreciate the information very much. You know, I want to be sure that we're keeping, especially, I mean, all these, obviously some of these are like, I hate to call a $3 million project a standard maintenance, but for an airport, it's standard maintenance kind of stuff. But especially important, you know, we want to keep our eye on the ball with these ones for expanding hangars and building new hangars, because that's the future. That's what we want to do. We need to expand that right now. As you're well aware of, and I think probably almost everybody in this room is that we haven't had open hangar space in decades.
Yes, long time.
And that's just not a great way to do business. And we need to be investing into more hangar space and getting other people to help us out with that. So I hope that we'll be able to get those for hangar 84, that doghouse going here quickly. I know we've been talking about it for a while, and it's obviously a need. So it's really hard when we see a need that should be a no-brainer. It takes us so long to pull the funding together, but we appreciate the work you're doing on that. All right, if there's no other questions, we'll move on. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, let's talk about vector control.
Vector control, as you requested, Mr. Chairman, vector control was started in 1987, an agreement with the city and the county. And then the last agreement we have is 1995 agreement, which is what we're working on. Basically, it was started for mosquito and fly control. And the 1995 agreement, there was only going to be one part-time person. As you can see now, they have 2 units. They have 2 to 3 employees. Spray at night, primarily. And then as far as funding goes, in your packet, the 2018 to 2019 year, we spent $47,000 and change. 2019 to 2020, which is the last bill that I've seen, haven't seen this year's bill, was $40,000. And you saw what they were up to from Angelo Goudelet, the report. But they spray the golf courses, city parks, baseball fields, schools, walking trails, large gatherings are going to be going. Behind you, Councilor Roebuck, is Quinn Miller. He's our street superintendent. Typically, the chain of command is if I get any complaints, I'll call Quinn. He'll call the road department. Quinn, every time when we had Hike It, Spike It and those kind of events, Quinn would always make sure that was sprayed before Hike It, Spike It, before we had fireworks out there. Just little stuff that was done behind the scenes that people didn't realize that was vector control. And we stand for any questions. But it's been in existence since 1987.
And of course, the county does it. We pay the county now.
Correct.
I don't know why we pay the county because the city is part of the county, but I guess that's how it works.
That's what the agreement was. I mean, the last agreement was 1995. We can always negotiate or try to negotiate another.
I like the county, the constant war about, they like calling this part of the county when it suits them, but then sometimes they're like, well, it's actually a city thing.
Well, I will say the
I'm sure.
relationship between the road department and the county, street department, engineering department with the city, we do get along. We do play well.
Good. And we're trying to do better as politicians as well. Okay. Trying to follow your lead on that. So,
Thank you.
so there's two different topics here. One, of course, is, and I think that you brought up earlier on when you presented your water or the rain issue, is that there is we have to take into account that there's a lot of water out there. There's a lot of weeds out there. There's a lot of puddles out there. And so we should expect anytime we get this kind of rain that we're going to have a spike in those populations. I think what I would be interested in finding out more about is, we talked about the parks and stuff like that. It'd be interesting to see, okay, what are the things that you do regularly? It'd be great to see that, just have that in writing. Like,
anytime citizens call in any kind of complaints about mosquitoes, you notify them, they go and spray
Sure.
those areas out.
so are we strictly responsive? Are we doing anything proactive at this point, or is it
For the proactive with that, we have our own weed spray truck.
Okay.
And then we have our own mowers.
No, I'm sorry. No, I'm not talking about.
No, but that all ties in with
Sure.
where they're going to nest and how they're going to spread.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're cleaning ditches all the time, trying to
Keep the water.
understand
Yeah.
issues taken care of.
Yeah.
We address all those.
But as far as spraying for bugs,
Yeah.
they're the only ones that do it.
Yeah, no, I understand, but we don't have there's no pre-schedule, they don't come every spring and spray certain areas without, they do, okay, it would be good, I think it would be great to have that, what is the regular areas that get sprayed? Obviously, you guys are very responsible.
Well, and again, if you look on page 16 of your packet,
Yeah.
they list their regular areas and they already know when baseball is going to start, hike and spike is going to start, soccer is going to start.
Sure.
So
But we're talking about city property and school property.
yeah. And
It would be, especially maybe on the walk, obviously the other ones are pretty self-explanatory, but it'd be great to have maybe a little more details on the walking trails. A lot of and again, I understand the challenge and that it's a never-ending battle and that you always end up losing in the end. Everybody does this. I've watched interesting documentaries of how Walt Disney World fights mosquitoes and it's a never-ending battle. And at some point, it is what it is. That being said, I want to make sure that I want our constituents to know what we're doing for them. But it's probably the best way to say that.
what I can do is I can get an updated report
I think that would be great.
and we'll just censor it as part of the.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Update a report, and certainly without being able to look at that, because I'd love to see that, because I know that in my ward especially, I get a lot of questions and about Spring River especially. And I know you guys go in there every year and
Those areas are sprayed, any water areas.
Yeah.
Or.
And so
Our detention ponds are
it would be
sprayed.
great to have all that information so we can be passing that along to our constituents, say, hey, this is sprayed, this is how often it's sprayed. And so that we can pass it on. I know you guys get down there, I think every year and scrape out the bottom. Well, but you also get down there with the cat, and scrape out the plants and stuff like that in Spring River.
Actually, the flood control.
Oh, that's flood control. Okay, that's not us.
The river proper is, both rivers is the flood commission.
Interesting.
Uh-huh.
So, okay, well,
And then the same thing, we've had complaints in the past, say, let's say weeds over here along the river, along the business district.
Yeah.
By the Arby's and Wendy's and not in the museum. When we have weed problems there, I just call Dick Smith, Flood Commission.
Yep.
And then they schedule it and they go take care of the weeds.
Okay.
So again, a good working relationship.
Yep. Okay. Well, if we could get that, that would be great. Because again, I want to have good data I can pass on to my constituents, and then,
Okay.
and then we can, if we need to have a larger conversation, I'd love for us, if there's more to be done, it would be nice if we did more. But again, I also want to take into consideration what you said at the beginning of the meeting too, which is that it's worse this year than it's been in years past.
Yeah, it's a 100-year event, and I mean, I just got a call. I haven't even called Quinn on this one. The Sycamore right away. People are complaining about the weeds and mosquito on there.
Yeah.
Sycamore right away and the Enchanted Hills.
Sure.
But
Sure. I guess maybe from a political standpoint, I think if throwing some more money at this would help, I think the constituents would be happy to put more money into it as well.
well, I mean, as far as that, I mean, it goes. I mean, they're limited in their unit.
Sure.
It would be a matter of overtime.
Yeah.
And working the guys longer.
Sure.
If you only have 2 or 3 employees, I mean, you're limited in how many hours you can give them and that kind of stuff.
Great. Questions from the rest of the committee?
I just wanted to mention, I think it would be something that, these are this is one of the many outdated agreements that we have. And even though it is, according to Mr. Nahar, working, a good working relationship, it wouldn't hurt to, perhaps let legal look at this agreement. And, I mean, in 1995, I was a sophomore. This is like 20 some odd years fast forward. We shouldn't be letting our agreements, be so past, so old, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, I appreciate the work that they do. And if, maybe this is something that the city needs to consider providing a service for if the county is not able to, meet all of our needs with the mosquitoes. But thank you.
Yeah, and that's common practice in the city that we always need to be looking at our agreements, keeping them updated, and I agree with that. I would like a follow-up on this though and say, okay, if the city council wanted to allocate more money to this, how would it help? Could it help? What's kind of return on investment? Are we doing the best that we can, et cetera? I think that it would be nice to see what other options we have. And again, it's all priority. There's all priorities as well. But what options do we have if we decided we want to put more money towards this? Because I think that at 50,000, less than 50,000 a year, it's that's not a crazy amount, a lot. And I certainly think that we have a lot of constituents who would be more than happy to see us spend more money if it would produce more results. We don't want to.
And let me put Quinn on the spot real quick because he knows his equipment. How much would each rig, one of those, cost? Because our spray truck rig is probably what, close to 50,000, which would be like the one on the right, something.
$50,000 to $60,000. And this unit here, probably around 20 with a rig up, the smaller side-by-side unit.
Now you're talking 70,000 if we were to buy our own 2 rigs.
And everything.
Sure.
We get a really good deal with what we got, but we just have enormous amount of rain this year.
Yeah.
And this created that issue to it.
And I think it definitely put a lot of things, but this is not the first year that I've gotten feedback on this as well. So, and again, I think we just want to be evaluating and saying, is this a place we want to put more resources or not? Certainly, I am confident staff is, with the resources they've been giving, are doing everything they can, and I appreciate that. So, great.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move on. Thank you for that. Number 5, Martin Luther King Trail overlay.
Martin Luther King Trail, that was initiated by Councilor Savino Sanchez and was instructed by you, Mr. Chairman. So the trail was constructed in 2014.
Okay.
That's the pictures from last week that I took. You can see it's already showing some distress. So from a maintenance point of view, yeah, this is an excellent time to put a 1-inch overlay. The street department, Quinn and the guys, we have our own crack sealing. So basically you would go in there and feel the cracks and do an overlay. Engineering did do a estimate for a 1-inch overlay on page 18 of the packet. We're roughly talking $25,000. So there's the information. I mean, it would take councilors, you guys, to put it on the budget amendment or ask for it to be put for list for next year or whatever you guys are thinking. But
Sure. Well,
we have Mr. With this here, our finance. So.
Sure. I think at that dollar amount, I think the next step would be if you can put together the information for finance then.
Okay.
And the next time next time we're looking at, obviously we're looking at budget amendments, that doesn't necessarily need to be for the budget meeting, but
After that, then
yes.
that's when we consider amendments.
Yeah. So
So you want me to take it to finance committee?
if you don't have a problem with that, I think that's the place for it to go.
Right.
Because they need to, but I mean, we could take, obviously not an action item today, we could take action item, but I think finance committee will be able to take appropriate action on it. I don't think it necessarily needs to come back here. If you guys think it's a good project.
I mean, it's a good project and I mean, maintenance, you always want to do as soon as you can. And before it gets worse, it's more effective. So I'll take the same information and take it to finance for consideration for funding.
Yep. Are you good with that?
Funding.
For the overlay, for the park.
Pay for it. Any questions from the committee? So they're gonna take it to finance committee to give finance committee the ability to pay for this, to get this fixed.
A budget amendment.
That of,
We'll be asking for, Counselor, I'll be asking for $25,330. And then we can overlay the trail. That would overlay the whole trail.
12. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That, yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
yeah, if the budget's given us, we can do it, $25,000.
Yeah.
It's worth it for 25,000.
I mean, when we built the trail, it was 58,000.
Yes.
Yes, that was for the dirt, clearing and grubbing, the base course and everything else. It's cheaper just to put an overlay because we already have the trail established.
Yeah.
And Quinn Street Department will fill the cracks. We'll fill the cracks and then we overlay on top of it.
Yeah.
It's a good maintenance operation. Okay.
Councilor Tenches, are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. We're not taking a vote on it. It's not an action item here, but with all,
I know what to do.
great, fantastic. Okay, then moving on to action items. Number 6, tree removal, disposal, and trimming services.
Kevin Mavers.
Mr. Chairman and committee members, RFP 22001. This is a good time to talk about this and to bring it forward because it piggybacks on top of everything we've been talking about relative to the weather. Right now, we have a tremendous number of trees that have come down. We've got limbs that fall down. Every time it rains, every time it hails, the situation only gets worse. And our current staff is certainly overwhelmed. So what we'd like you to do tonight is to consider approval of the award or recommendation for RFP 22001. This is for tree removal, disposal, and trimming services, and then authorize the city manager to enter into negotiations with Lawn and Order Services of Roswell. Just real quick background, we did issue an RFP to make available a contractor. Again, this is not going to replace any city staff. This is going to supplement our city staff on an on-call as needed basis for tree trimming, removal, and disposal. This is citywide for both emergency and non-emergency needs for the fiscal year with the option to renew for up to 3 additional years. We did receive 2 proposals on July 13th, but one proposal was deemed non-responsive. The evaluation committee completed the review and his recommendation is to award this contract to Lawn and Order Services based on the evaluation criteria. Next slide, please. There we go. Again, staff recommendation is to consider award of RFP 22001 to Lawn and Order Services of Roswell, New Mexico. And your board action, of course, is to consider the award of the disposal and tree trimming services as that should be presented and recommend approval to the August 12th, 2021 City Council meeting. Pretty straightforward.
So Is this a pool of one? Is that what happened here?
Unfortunately, it is a pool of one. We are considering flying it again to try to get one or two others as a backup. We're actually looking at our RFP process on this and how we send things out. And in addition to, of course, advertising in the newspaper, doing some additional advertising in other venues. In fact, all the way down to and including direct email to some of our licensed landscape providers in the city, just letting them know that these opportunities are available. The biggest block that we have for something like this is equipment. Most of the tree trimming services or lawn services that we have here in town, they're designed just to handle your daily residential maintenance. They're not designed to handle big disposal jobs, especially on an emergency basis.
Sure. Oh, that's fine. I just want everybody to be aware that this was not this is a pool, even though it's right now.
It was an attempt to create a
pool, right?
Yeah,
So,
trying to create.
but it's the same contract that the same agreement as our other pools, and that this is somebody who's an on-call
It's
person.
an on-call.
Because it's not for a particular current project.
No, it's an on-call, and then Kevin would still have the opportunity to request a quote.
Sure.
And he felt uncomfortable, he could still.
Do a normal RFP. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Just one, I was pretty sure that that's what this was, but want to make sure everybody knows that. Any questions from the committee? Yeah, everybody good? Okay, then I would entertain a motion.
And this is eligible for consent if you so desire.
I move to approve sorry.
Page
To
19.
consider, yes, sir, to consider the award recommendation for RFP 22-001 tree removal disposal trimming services to the consent agenda for August 12, 2021.
Yes.
I got a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Thank you very much. Number 7.
Mr. Chairman and committee, your next item is requesting permission to get POs for 2 NovaChip locations. Again, if you remember at the last council meeting, council approved the agreement with the DOT. That'd be East College from Maine to Atkinson. And the NovaChip is what we did on Main Street from Country Club, from Country Club to College, and also what we did on Southeast Main. This is a picture of them putting it on Southeast Main. So we're gonna do the same thing on East College from Main to Atkinson, and also on Atkinson from College to Terra Berenda, which is $458,000, which is already on the budget. If you approve the budget as submitted, you approve it in full Thursday at the full approval of the budget. But it's already, both of these projects are already budgeted. We have an agreement on one to get half the money back. Again, I'm asking for 2 POs just for bookkeeping procedures and keeping them all separate. And this will go to Brazier Asphalt, 2 POs, and you may send these to consent agenda if you wish.
Questions?
Now, do you want to send this, Chairman, to the consent, or would you rather it go to full?
I don't think there's any reason not to send it consent. I don't think this is a controversial. It's already budgeted. So if someone wants to pull it off, they can, but no, there's no reason not to send this consent.
Okay. So I move to recommend approval to the City Council on August 12, 2021, the 2 POs for Brazier Asphalt in the amount stated.
Yes.
Second. I've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. We tabled number 8. Number 9, department reports.
Department reports, Mr. Chairman and committee, they're in their packet, and we have department heads here if you have any questions.
Appreciate all the information. Questions?
As you can see in the streets department, they've been busy with a lot of flooding. And then also what they're doing, they're supporting solid waste, because another thing that hasn't been discussed, the alleys got soft.
Very soon.
And they've had to go in there and, grade them, put some extra gravel and all the stuff that comes with the heavy rain or heavy snow.
So question for you, if this, and this is, if a constituent sees a problem, just the fix it form online?
The fix it form online or anybody's, you can always call the city engineer's office and we'll take any call and route it where
Sure.
I think it should go.
Yeah, and I just say that because I know that the city staff is very responsive and they want to be out there and they want to be helping and fixing things. So they don't have eyes everywhere though. So if you see something, I know that was the issue that was there in Kentucky that I saw. I sent you a picture and, you know, I always feel bad sending stuff on because I know you guys are so busy, but I do appreciate it.
That's what we get paid for. And again, we don't have eyes everywhere and every concern, we'll look into it.
Yeah.
Maybe not be able to fix it because of money, but we'll look into it.
So I do appreciate the attitude and the work ethic that our streets team and engineering team has. So thank you for that. Public comments. Mr. Connolly. Okay.
Larry Conley, 2815 in Canto. ICIP projects. I know we dropped it, but I want to talk to you about the county. They had a discussion last week at their discuss it. I made a public comment that I hope that we would add at least $300,000 to fix up South Main, to the airport. Those buildings,
Oh, the demolition?
the demolition, and they are adding it hopefully to their list. They have to work with the city on how to pay for the hauling things to the dump. But hopefully they'll put it on their list and they'll put it up near, very near the top. And if you know any county commissioners, or city managers or county manager, I hope you talk up fixing up South Main. Thank you.
Okay. I think it's an ongoing discussion and hopefully we can make some progress on it.
Well, that's something that's always been on the radar. I mean,
It's challenging.
South Main is one of the gateways into Roswell. That's the reason why we put over $1 million 2 years ago when we did the hot recycled and the Nova chip on top of that. Just to get a little, he hit ICIP. The two road projects that we were looking at was South Main from where we left off at Jaffa to Hobb Street, and then Hobb Street itself.
Yeah.
And then, but I mean, again, looking at the south and the gateway as you come in from the airport.
Yeah.
The same thing when we had, I mean, that's been a discussion between the county and the city. Main Street is the city, but once you leave the Main Street right away, you're in the county.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
one thing, I'm on the ETZ commission.
Mhm.
We have condemned structures along South Main,
Mhm.
and they're still there. And the reason they're still there is the department that handles that for the county has never been, I think this year they're going for 50,000. Well, 50,000 isn't anything.
No.
And I went for 300. I wanted to go for 500, but I'm figure 300 from.
Well, I think, I'll tell you what, at the next, we have these county city meetings where we talk about issues. Well, if I'm invited, the council is getting invited in rotation next time I'm invited to, I'll be sure to bring that up because I think that is an important place where we need to be cooperating.
No, that would be a good joint project.
We need to be cooperating.
Yep.
Bring that to our attention. Okay. Anything else from staff?
No, sir.
Good. All right. Well, next meeting, we're going to stick to this date unless you're otherwise. I do want to check with
No, I'll check with Daniel.
and if not, like I said, I'm fairly flexible.
My my gut feeling that he'll be available. I mean, he does have a business.
Yeah.
So he can just,
Yeah, and I hope so too.
his business.
Be courteous, so.
Yeah, no, and I'll reach out to him.
Great. So then let's see when
Your liaison.
we can.
I do have some, what I call Grandpa Lewis
Oh, boy.
versions of the ICIP list from Public Works.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I'd like to take one. That'd be great. Thank you.
So Vino's got one.
Great.
I don't know if my fellow department heads would want to.
Louis, can you put one in my box for me, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, unless you hear otherwise, we'll be meeting the 23rd and we're adjourned. Thank you very much.